What if criticism equals cash? Is that true? I don't know. You tell me. Hear me out here. So, if every time you think about doing some sort of money making venture, a business, starting a business, and the thought of other people's criticisms and judgments stops you from doing that thing in some way, shape, or form, you talk yourself out of it, or you just put it on the back burner and let it die. And you know that the root cause of that was your fear of what other people might say about you. Might. Then criticism is costing you money. Therefore, criticism, your ability and your willingness to receive criticism and judgment is equal to receiving cash. If I came up to you and I said, I have this stack of cash that's $50,000, and along with that $50,000, I'm handing also to you a stack of judgments. They're all in written form, just a stack of papers, 50,000 judgments, $50,000. Would you be willing to receive that? And you might think, is this some sort of trick? Is this a scam? What do I have to do with those judgments? Well, you can do whatever you want with them. So you mean I can throw them away? Burn them, perhaps? Yes, you can. You can do whatever you'd like with them. Make paper airplanes. Do whatever you want with them. Do origami. Better yet, just burn them. Because at the end of the day, ultimately, it doesn't matter what other people think of you. Would you receive the 50,000 if you had to also receive the stack of judgments? And what do those judgments mean about you? Do they mean anything? What significance do they have? Only the significance that you give to them. That's it. That's the only meaning that they have, is if you agree with it, you're somehow in alignment with that judgment, then it means something. But then ultimately you're the one holding the power. So what if you flipped perfectionism on its head? And what if you realized that the thing you're hiding from is actually just truckloads and truckloads of money? What if you could turn it around and say, look for how many different ways can I put myself out there to receive judgment? Because I know that every time I'm putting myself out there in a position to receive judgment or criticism of any form, I am literally posturing myself to receive financial abundance. If you realized that these two things are connected, would that cause you to rethink some of the ways you've been going about this? This meaning how you make decisions around whether or not you're going to do a thing. I can't tell you how many people I talk to who have hopes and dreams, and constantly talk to people who have things they'd like to do, and they say these things, and ultimately when I get to the bottom of why aren't you doing it? They're ultimately afraid of what their family and their friends might say about them. What if they fail? That type of thing. But really, I mean, again, going back to what significance does judgment have? And by the way, judgment could be good or bad. A lot of people are judging you in a good way. They're saying, oh, I love this person. I love the way they do what they do. I love the way they look, whatever it is. Also, their thoughts about you also don't make those things true, right? So where does your identity come from? It doesn't come from other people. Okay. So what if you could figure out a way to completely detach from judgment and criticism? You don't have to agree with it. You do not have to say that it's true. You don't have to align with it, but you're just saying, I'm willing to simply receive it. I'll receive it. Okay, now you're in a position where things are going to start opening up for you. Another thing I was thinking about, I have got some notes here I'm just looking at, but when you allow yourself to change what you would have done based on someone else's opinion or judgment or criticism, you are literally handing over your power to them. You are handing it over. And so when you stop doing that, you are taking back your power. You are not allowing yourself to be influenced by other people's opinions. You realize they're going to have them. And this is the thing. I think this, I know this will set you up powerfully. I mean, it has helped me too. But like, understand, other people's judgments are incoming, whether you do the thing or not. Whatever that is, people already have their judgments and their opinions and their criticisms about you. Okay, so you shrinking back thinking if I do or don't do this, then at least maybe that person will or won't think that or whatever. The reality is, of course, there's another school of thought that says people aren't thinking about you anyway. I agree with that too. I think it's a both and. But when they are thinking about you, they do have judgments, and some good and some not good. Does someone else's thinking about you make that true? Yes or no? Ultimately, no, it does not. You get to be the one. You're in the driver's seat. So take back power. Take back power by putting yourself in a position and asking different questions. And what would it take for me to be willing to put myself in a position to receive criticism? Perhaps one answer to that question is just realizing that nobody's judgments of me are true. Not one single one of them. I happen to believe that only what God says about me is true. And I actually agree with what he says about me. And so, because sometimes even I have thoughts about me that are not true because they don't align with his word. And his word is the plumb line for me. So sometimes I have wrong thinking about myself, and I go back to his word daily and I make sure, am I in alignment? Because that's where my worldview is formed from. So anyway, I just want to encourage you that, listen, look at judgment and criticism and your ability to receive it. Look at judgment really as a tool, and then you could really set yourself up powerfully. If you could start even looking at judgment, most people think about judgment and they automatically, it's like a bad thing, a negative thing. What if you started looking at judgment as like, ooh, like I was saying earlier, but like, I want to find how many ways can I put myself out there to get judged? And I personally, I am not the type of person, I'm not a provocateur. I'm not trying to be purposely, obnoxious, or offensive or anything like that. And there's people out there who do that. That's not my thing. But I'm not saying that you have to be that way either, It's just, when are we going to stop allowing ourselves to be controlled by the fear and, again, the fantasies that we create in our minds about what other people may or may not be thinking about us, okay? So judgment, look at it as a tool, if anything, a positive, okay? Not judgment itself, but the willingness to receive it. And so then you can start equating it to something positive. Judgment equals positive, because every time I'm willing to receive judgment, it's like it's like the cash button gets pushed. All right. So let me know what you think about this. I want to just leave you with that. And also one other thing, Galatians chapter 1, verse 10. Paul wrote, am I now seeking the approval of man or of God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ. So if you are a person who follows Christ, we are not ruled by what other people may or may not think about us. And that's something I just want to leave you with. I bless you, and look forward to talking to you again soon.